just because I'm the captain or one of the leaders, I don't have to show up and be strong every single day and be like, yeah, you know what, I'm struggling today.
It's hard, again, being an athlete because it's almost like you become competitive and you want to do everything right and you do it to such a high standard, but sometimes your body just says no, and that's a really tough one to swallow.
One day I was playing a tournament in Michigan and I had woken up for a nap and my whole leg was just on fire. I never felt such intense pain in my life.
I just want to make that clear that it's not all rainbows and butterflies being an elite athlete. It's extremely hard.
I can't tell you how many times I wanted to turn around and go, I can't do this, because I had no idea what I was walking into. I had no idea how long I was going to be there for. It was genuinely the scariest thing I've ever done, but probably one of the best things I've ever done.
You can't script half of those things to happen. So the fact that you came back from one, let alone, 7 or 8 long term, it's incredible. So you should be so incredibly proud of yourself.
I got there and I remember meeting some people there, and a lot of people there were had come from military backgrounds or been in the army or had PTSD or done things like that. And I'm sitting there feeling guilty going, oh my God, why am I here? I'm an athlete. I get paid to play football. I shouldn't be here. I should be better than this.
What would you go back and tell your 16-year-old self, knowing what you know now?
A few things, I think.
Welcome to 40G. Hey guys, before we get started, just a gentle heads up that this episode today with Janelle includes honest conversation about mental health struggles in elite sport, including suicidal thoughts and suicide. If that feels a little bit heavy for you today, that's okay. Feel free to skip this one and come back to it when you're ready. I've got some support numbers in the show notes below. Thank you so much to Janelle for being so open and honest on this incredibly important topic in sport. Janelle Cuthbertson, welcome to the 40G podcast.
Hey, Kylie, how you going? It's lovely to be on, and thank you for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you because, as we were just chatting about offline, we have the same ACL anniversary, and I followed you very closely when you did yours, and it was also the same anniversary as Chloe Malloy. So I kind of felt like the third Hemsworth brother that no one knows about, but felt very much amongst your journey the whole time.
Yeah, it's funny looking back and I guess looking at the journey, and I think Chloe and I, we started messaging and started contacting each other going, oh my God, we've done it on the same day. And it was actually really nice, I guess, just to establish that relationship with someone who is on a very similar journey to yourself. And she was obviously, is captain of the Sydney Swans, and I was captain at the time of Port. And I guess just having that person to kind of check in on and, just sometimes vent or just understand that, we're both going through the same things, or sometimes just justify the pain that you're in and going, are you in pain too? Is this normal? Or, so it's pretty funny that it, happened on the same day, and there's so many lessons to take out of it and so many learnings. And, as hard as ACLs are, I've had 3 of them now. They're not fun and I wouldn't wish them upon anyone, but I always try and, I guess, look at what I can take out of it and the lessons and the learnings, as hard as it is at the time when you're in it, and as much of a grind as the ACL rehab is. And probably part of why I also wanted to share my journey a little bit on Instagram. And I'm not big on being on camera. I'm quite an introvert and don't really like being the center of attention or filming myself. So that really put me out of my comfort zone. But there was so many times where I guess it took a lot of courage and vulnerability for myself to kind of speak up and talk about the journey and how hard it was at times, whether it was physically or mentally, and sometimes just getting a message from someone who was going through a similar thing, and almost just saying thank you. That really helped me keep going and help me keep sharing that journey as well. And I think just understanding if you can impact one other person in a positive way or influence them, I think that's really special. And that's probably something I have to keep reminding myself of as I continue to move through this journey and now transition into the next phase of retirement, which has its own challenges.
Absolutely. And you're exactly right, because I remember your story and you were so vulnerable on Instagram. And for me, I don't know whether it's just the algorithms or what it was, but I didn't hear many people sharing the ACL journey and the real vulnerabilities behind it. So everything that you posted just resonated so much. And it goes to show the power that social media can have in a positive way. and that whatever you're posting, you can be inspiring people and you don't need to be inspiring everyone. If you're inspiring one or two people, that has such a profound impact and it's so important.
Yeah, 100%. And that's where, whether it's 15, 16, just young girls who are coming through the pathway or, someone who's 40, 50 years old and never done an ACL before, I think, yeah, just those little reminders. And um, I think a big thing for me was like I've had so many injuries throughout both of my careers. And I guess rehab wasn't unfamiliar to me. Like it's a place I've been in many, many, many times. But the most two recent, well, that first particular ACO was probably one of the harder ones to show up for. And um, yeah, that was really challenging for me mentally more so than anything as well. The physical side, I felt like I knew what to do and I knew what my body was capable of, but it took a big mental toll with everything else that I was probably trying to balance, or manage at that point, being captain and still working and having a life and trying to do everything outside of that. There was a fair bit of pressure I was putting on myself, probably more than anything, and just that desire to want to get back and help the team. And yeah, when you get injured, you feel like you lose your identity in a way, and that's really tough and it's really isolating. So especially when the team's very successful, and they were that year when they made a prelim,
Mm.
to sit on the sidelines and kind of watch I felt guilty, wanting to be out there because I couldn't play and it's a team sport. And yeah, there's just so much that goes into it that probably people don't understand behind the scenes. So yeah, I felt like if I could share just a few snippets of those publicly and help someone else, then that was really important to help me keep going as well.
And as you said, you are pretty much a soldier of rehab. Like you've done 3 ACLs. And I even noticed, just I've obviously only done one, and touch wood only ever do one because, as you say, you wouldn't wish it upon your worst enemy. But so often people always will say, "How's your knee?" But no one ever really asks, "How's your head? How's your heart?" Because those things are more injured than your knee. Your knee is just one part of you, but all of a sudden it becomes your whole identity. And
Yeah,
people they're being nice, right? And that comes from the best place ever. But one thing that I always try with ACL rehabbers or long-term rehabbers, just being like, "How are you?" And like, "How's the head? How's everything else going?"
100%. I think it's so important. And I guess this is the thing, and this is something that I've been on my own mental health journey probably for the last 3 or 4 years now, and I've learnt a lot. And the way someone described it to me was essentially like you're so good at rehabbing yourself physically, like you have a physical injury and you will cross every I, you cross every T, dot the I's to the absolute perfectionist that you are. But she goes, then just because you can't see a mess, why do you do nothing about it? And
Mm.
that's when the penny kind of dropped for me. And I was like, you're 100% right. And it's like, just because people can't see, you think about the iceberg and what's going on underneath the surface, like under that iceberg, and um, people only see what they see when you're in the gym and you're doing your rehab and doing that physical side of things. But there's so much that goes on behind that, with any injury, that people face, behind the scenes, which is really, I would say, tougher than the physical side for sure.
And how did you think from your 3 ACLs, and obviously you're still coming back from your most recent one, but what have you learned each step? And was one easier than the other, or is it always just, pretty isolating and hard to bear?
Um, yeah, I think rehab is it's lonely, it's isolating. I don't think that will ever get easier. No matter how many people you've got in your rehab group. I mean, coming from tennis where that was an individual sport, like your your rehab is there's just so much time by yourself and so much time in your own head. It's incredibly repetitive. People often say you've got to get good at the basics, and they're incredibly boring. They're incredibly repetitive, but you just have to, like, I would just almost try and perfectionize the tiniest of things. Like I remember when I had an ankle surgery, and part of my rehab was just moving my big toe. And I was like, "I'm gonna perfect this, like, I'm gonna find the details to do this, like, differently every single time and feel every single muscle moving." So I would always just try and challenge myself in that way where when things were boring or repetitive, just to find, like, feel the muscles working or really just feel something different each time. So I'm not just thinking about, "Okay, 1 rep, 2 reps, 3 reps. Oh, here we go again." So I don't think the loneliness and the isolation, I don't think that ever changes. There's like, you sit, countless times I would be sitting on the watt bike, and the watt bikes literally look out onto the oval and you're watching all the girls
Oh,
train,
yep.
and you're just trying to find ways to motivate yourself and to keep pushing. And, sometimes I would change it up, and sometimes I put a podcast in or music. Sometimes I just sit there in silence and challenge myself to sit there with my own thoughts. Um, yeah, I think as you go through it each time, like, yeah, the last 2 years definitely got harder and harder, and that's when I knew I think my time was up, because I didn't have that same resilience and that same drive to really get back out there. And, the I had 4 after the first ACL. I was practically due to come back and play round 2, so I was cleared to play in, round 2, 2025, and with from a knee perspective, and then woke up, so I just had to get through training that week to be up for selection. Woke up on
Mm,
that Tuesday for main training and went to warm up, and, I couldn't put any weight through my foot, and I knew practically straight away, but I was in denial because I've had about 9 or 10 stress fractures in my feet through tennis, and straight away I was like, "I know exactly what this feels like." And I remember at that point, I was incredibly just felt defeated. I was exhausted. I was mentally tired. I was burnt out. And I literally said to the doctor, I was like, "I don't know that I can deload for another 4 to 6 weeks and try and get back up." I said, "I just don't
mm,
know that I've got it in me." And I actually said to him, I said, "Can I just play until my foot breaks and then I'll just call it?"
yeah.
Like, that's where my head was at, because I was like, I can't go back into rehab.
Mm,
Um, so yeah, I don't think it ever gets easier. I think you build that muscle and you build that resilience. And like I said, I always just tried to find ways to keep it somewhat interesting for myself, and, just set more, I guess, short-term goals. And yeah, my 2024 rehab, I did that one a little bit differently, in a sense that I just made myself like a vision board, and the amount of text messages that I had from people and teammates and the love that I received, and I just put them all on my board. And each week I just set myself little goals and tick them off each week, just to see that you're making progress. I think with an ACL, it's such a long rehab and the end feels so far away. At times you don't feel like you're doing anything. So I would often even just put like, today I had 60 degrees of range, and if next week I have 65, then that's a win. But,
yep.
that's something really small that to the naked eye you probably wouldn't feel or see too much. So
Yeah.
that's kind of how I had to approach, that second one. But yeah, when I got the stress response in my foot, I was just, that was the hardest 4 weeks of rehab I think I've ever done. Like, I didn't want to go to the club. I didn't want to turn up. And the only reason I got through those 4 weeks was my teammates. And there was a few of us in rehab at that time, and I said, "If I just get to the gym, that's a
Mm,
win." And they motivated me to get through the sessions and get out of the moon boot. And then, because I essentially had 2 choices, I was like, "Well, I either rehab it or I don't, and I don't play
yep.
again." And I was like, all I had in my head was just, all I wanted to do was pull that Guernsey on one more time. And that's what kept me going through my rehab through 2024. And, yeah, it didn't end how I imagined, which was heartbreaking. But again, like, just the way cookie crumbles, and, it's part of sport, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it's often a tough pill to swallow that sometimes it is out of your control and you can put in absolutely 100% effort. You can do everything by the book, but some things really are just, you just can't help. And it's hard, again, being an athlete because it's almost like you become competitive and you want to do everything right and you do it to such a high standard. But yeah, sometimes your body just says no. And that's a really tough
Yeah,
one to swallow.
it is. And that's where I think, yeah, like the 12 months between round 2 2024 and coming back for being cleared for round 2 2025, like, it wasn't just my knee that I was rehabbing. Like, I had so many injuries. I had 2 stress responses in my foot. I had a stress fracture in my hip. I had chronic nerve pain in my shin where I could barely run. I had a disc issue in my back. I had an Achilles issue. So it was just kind of just felt like one thing after another. And then, but the
Mm,
knee was obviously the primary focus. And I think that was just clear sign for me that I was like, my body is just telling me something right now, and I
Yeah.
need to just like, that's when I realized like sports has been such a big part of my life, but it's also not all of my life. And I've still got, hopefully another 30, 40, 50 years to live. And um, I want to be healthy. I want to be mobile. I want to be able to run around with my kids one day. Like, I don't, I can't let this deteriorate me any more than it already probably has. And knowing
Yeah.
that I gave it literally everything, then that's all I can do. So,
Mm, yeah, absolutely. And as you say, you've got a whole life outside of sport and you want to have a healthy body for that. And
yeah,
at the time, you sort of all you can think about, you're so tunnel visioned because sport is everything. So I think as terrible as injuries are, they force you to take a step back and realize that there's more to you than just sport and it forces you to find beauty in other things. And a really
yeah,
important point that you mentioned as well is the importance of your team around you. Like, people listening, do not underestimate how important it is to just check in on your rehab friends. And I know myself, like, I had a captain who every week religiously would just check in with the message. She had done an ACL herself, and that meant more to me than just about anything. And even now, when I've got other people in rehab, I'm like, I need to go and check in on them because you completely forget about them when they're like not
yeah.
training with you. So it's so important to be on the front foot and just go and check in.
Yeah, it is. And it's so easy, like, and I think that's where that disconnection piece comes in. And, we spoke about it tirelessly at times within the club around how do we keep the group connected when you're in rehab. But it's just physically so hard because you've got people on the track and the gym, like, and you're just so isolated. Like, you just miss out on the small banter or the inside jokes. And you get into the locker room and you're like, well, what are you talking about? Like, I don't know, I wasn't there. And then in the background, you're still trying to deal with all this like emotional and mental fatigue going, or, I'm falling behind, or, what if I get injured again? Or it's like emotional whiplash, essentially. Like, it's
Mm,
so hard to manage. But I think, yeah, having those people around you just and being genuine about it too, and just being like, hey, like, how are you? Like, are you, and I think on the opposite end of that, an important lesson that I learned is I had to start to be vulnerable and
yes.
open up and just be like, just because I'm the captain or one of the leaders, I don't have to show up and be strong every single day and be like, yeah, you
Mm.
know what? I'm struggling today. And this is actually pretty tough. And that's something I really had to try and let my walls down a little bit. I think over time, coming from tennis where it's a individual sport, you're by yourself a lot. And I would kind of just get injured and get back up and keep going. And at Fremantle, we had a bit of an inside joke that my initials are JC and they just called me Jesus Christ because I just kept resurrecting. Um, and I just didn't think anything of it. Like, I'd crack a rib and just kept playing. And I think that came to kind of bite me on the bum a little bit later on because then I just felt like I would always just shrug and be like, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. Like, just get on with it. But behind closed doors, like, I wasn't fine and I was really struggling. So, yeah, I had to kind of let my walls down and my ego and my pride and be like, nah, like, I need some help or I just need a hug today or, so I think it's just being able to create that environment where people feel psychologically safe and feel open enough and trusted enough to be themselves. And that was something that I was, yeah, really trying to encourage within our four walls.
Which is so important, and, like, that's obviously getting better in this day and age, more vulnerability with sport, but for so long, you're glorified for being the stoic one who doesn't show pain and all of that, and, it's in this day and age, like, it's just not working, and we need to overcome it, and, like, it's definitely better in the women's space compared to the men's, but the men's
Yeah.
also have a long
Yeah.
way to go in that space.
I 100% agree with you. Yeah. Like, it's just such an important, I think it's just that perspective around athletes where they just keep showing up and they have to be strong and resilient and, wear this body armor. But yeah, I think a lot of people forget at the end of the day that we're human and we have feelings and we have emotions. And just because we are out in public eye more so than not, everyone kind of has something to say about it. So yeah, I think it's just remembering like there's still a lot going on underneath the surface and we're still trying to manage just as much as anyone else in the world.
Yes, absolutely. Now, you've touched on that you were a tennis player, which was actually news to me. So I want to dig deeper into that, into all the people who don't know about you being a tennis superstar before footy came about. So, what
Superstar might
was
be a stretch.
no, we put mayonnaise on things here.
Mm.
So How did you get into tennis? And then obviously you went to America and played over there. Tell us a little bit about that sort of transition.
Yeah, so pretty much lived and breathed tennis from as young as I can remember. So mum tells me I had, tennis racket in my hand since I was like 2 or 3 years old, and just kinda she knew that I had that hand-eye coordination. And I have an older brother, he's 3 years older than me, and I guess I was probably a little tomboy, I think you could say, as a girl, and as a child would always follow him around and do whatever he would do, and he played soccer and tennis. So then I was like, "Well, I wanna do that too." Um, and yeah, played probably up until I was probably about 12 or 13, I'd say. I was playing both and really enjoyed both, and was quite good at both. But then I had to make a decision as to which way I wanted to go, if I was gonna take one more seriously than other. And at that time, there was no pathways for girls in soccer, so tennis was the obvious choice, and I probably enjoyed it a little bit more than I did soccer as well. Um, yeah, and then from there, like, just started getting private lessons and, tournaments, traveled around for nationals, traveled around Australia, and then, um, yeah, I think, like, it's funny now looking back, as I'm in this phase of retirement, I crave structure, and I do that because since I was 12, I've had structure in my life, like, where I would get up, go to the state tennis center before school, do my gym, go to school, go back to the tennis center, go home, do my homework, go to sleep, and repeat, repeat, repeat. And then college was the same. Um, so then, yeah, I think like just naturally was started to get pretty good at it, and developed a ranking, a junior ranking within Australia and then within the world, and ended up deciding to be homeschooled for year 10 and year 11 and 12. So I did that over 3 years just to focus more on tennis, and the amount of traveling that was required, like living in Perth is completely isolated from everywhere else. Um, and you have to travel a lot and play tournaments to keep your ranking and to do that. So yeah, that's I guess how it started, and I just naturally progressed through the pathway at Tennis West and played all the tournaments, and just I really just loved the sport, lived and breathed it. Still love soccer as well, but yeah, it just kind of came naturally to me. And then yeah, when I was finished year 12, I guess I'd had injury troubles through 16, 17 years old, like a lot of stress injuries in my feet. And when I was 17, I actually lost feeling in my left leg.
Oh.
So my leg went numb. And at that point, I started to think about a coach of mine had been to America, had been to college, and it wasn't as big back then as it is probably now. But we started talking about it, and I started doing a bit of research. And I'd never thought about university. I had no idea what I wanted to do. For me, it was just I wanted to do professional tennis player. That was my dream.
Mhm.
Um, so my thoughts were, well, if I go to America, go to college, I have the ability to do a degree and get an education behind me whilst competing. Like the tennis Division 1 college, like the competition is so strong over there, even in a college system. So I was like, maybe this is a really good stepping stone for me for 4 years to get some, like, tennis is all about pretty much match play and getting consistent match play under your belt. So use the resources over there and then go on to the professional tour after that. Um, so that was the plan. And yeah, at 18, I packed one suitcase and one tennis bag, jumped on a plane and went to Texas, A&M. So at the time, I probably didn't think about how big that decision was, or how hard that was, until, yeah, probably my mid-20s, and I started looking back and going, "Geez, that was a big transition, and that was really hard." Like,
Mm.
not
How
having
so?
my
What were the
fam
biggest sort of shocks, do you reckon?
I think just, A, being so far away from home, like, I'm
Mm.
very, very close to my family, and not to have that support network to be able to just pick up the phone. Like, the time difference was, like, 13 hours or something, so I had to get up at, like, 5 a.m. to speak to my mum before she went to work. It was the days where Skype was still a thing.
Yep.
Um, so that was a really big adjustment, and then just the adjustment of, like, I had to so to maintain my scholarship, you have to maintain a certain GPA, which is a certain grade point average. Um, and I had to teach myself how to study and how to learn. Like, I'd gone through school, done year 11 and 12, but I don't know that I'd ever really applied myself properly. Um, so I had to manage, and I started in January, which is like for tennis, that's their season, in season, whereas most their school year starts in August. So I've come in pretty much mid-year, and gone straight into the tennis season, and I'm touted as this highly recruited Australian athlete, come over from Perth, and in the tennis, it's like they have 6 singles matches and 3 doubles matches, and they put me straight at number 1, and then I think I lost, like, every game for, like, a month. And so my confidence was just absolutely shot. So I was trying to manage the performance side of things and learning this completely new system, new structure, new environment, hardcore training, plus also trying to be a student and go to my classes. I was living in a dormitory. I didn't know anyone. Um, we had study hall at night for all the athletes where we had to go there from 6 till 9 p.m. and study because you had to maintain your grade point averages. And then you do your exams, and I was like, "Oh, God, I don't know how to manage all this. Like, this is just
Yeah.
too much." So that was a real adjustment. And yeah, like I said, 18 years old without your family and your support network, and you just pretty much just trying to find your way, essentially.
Mm.
Um, and it wasn't until my parents came over at the end of that semester, and I knew my mum was coming over. I didn't know my dad was coming over, and they surprised me at the airport, and I just burst into tears. And
Yeah.
I guess I just didn't realize how much I was really homesick at that point. Um, and then on top of that, I still had injuries going on. And so there was just so much to learn and so much to manage at 18. And I think it set me up for success down the track. But at the time, it was really, really challenging.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, so I spent it was just under 5 years I spent over there. So I would play through the season, and then through their summer, I would go and like drive to somewhere in America and play a tournament or, yeah, really, like I said, my goal was to go professional. So I was just doing absolutely everything I could to make that dream. But I think a lot of people don't understand with tennis, it looks really glamorous on TV. And it looks like, you win the Australian Open and you earn a lot of money.
Yeah.
Um, but it's probably one of the most toughest sports I think there is out there, in the sense that the schedule is just ridiculous. Like it's 11 months of the year where you have to play tournaments, and if you don't play tournaments, you don't back up your ranking, so your ranking drops. You're not really earning any money unless you're top 100 in the world. So other than that, you're forking out a lot of money to travel,
Mm.
for at times minimal rewards. So it's a really tough sport, and there's thousands and thousands of people trying to craft the tour. So
Yeah.
it's that's where it becomes quite lonely. Whereas a lot of people travel without coaches and without, it's really only that top tier of players with the money who can afford to have that support group around them.
Mm.
Um, yeah, so like there was times where I'd jump in the car and drive 16 hours from Texas to, I think I went to Michigan or something with my mum, to play a tournament, and that's just what you do to try and make something out of it. So that was, yeah, a real learning curve for me. And it all, yeah, again, it ended probably not how I thought it would. So I talked about the numbness that I had in my leg, and that's something that never went away. So I remember one day I had an ice pack on my leg, and I said to Izzy, I was like, I can't feel this part. It's like, that's not right. Like, something's not right here. Um, but nothing ever came out of it. So we had no results, no answers. And then there was one day I was playing a tournament in Michigan, and I had woken up for a nap, and my whole leg was just on fire. I like never felt such intense pain in my life. And I started speaking to the doctors, and I was like, something's not right here. Like, this is not a normal feeling. So that prompted a couple of uh, testing and seeing different doctors and things like that. And so I was in my 4th year at that point. I think I was 21 maybe. And I remember sitting in the neurologist's office, and I'd had a lumbar puncture, I had a blood test, eye test, had everything. And um, I'm sitting there by myself, and she just said to me, she goes, "Oh, I think we've got the answer, and you've got multiple sclerosis." And I just went, "Oh." I went, "Okay." And I honestly didn't know anything about what that was or what that meant. Well, I knew that it's like I had this numb leg. And what I knew at the time is we had a trainer who had been with us for 4 years, and she had it. She was about 40,
Mhm.
and she was deteriorating very, very quickly, and my head just went, "Oh my god,
Oh
that's
my
my life.
god.
That's gonna
Yeah.
be me."
Yeah.
So that was, fair to say, a bit of a shock to the system. And at that point, she handed me, like, literally an encyclopedia worth of documents to read through around different medications you could take, information about it, and everything like that. So I just remember going back home, and I just burst into tears, and I jumped onto Skype, and I'm trying to tell my mum what's happening and trying to figure out what medication to go on when half of them, like, all of them except one. So one was oral and all the rest were injections, and I was just completely overwhelmed. I was like,
Oh
it, like,
god.
turned my life
Yeah, as
upside
you
down pretty
would.
much. Yeah. Yeah. So at that point, I made the pretty hard decision. I had a year left on my scholarship with tennis, and I thought, I don't think I can give what this program needs at the moment in terms of if I'm taking up a spot on the team, I can't give what it needs. And I think someone else should have that spot who can give their all. And um, that was an incredibly hard conversation to have with the coach at that point and the program to go like, this is a dream that I've been chasing for such a long time to then just, out of one kind of diagnosis go, "Oh, I don't think I can do this anymore." So, I decided to, yeah, stop playing, and I spent the last year of my year in Texas at just finishing off my degree. So I had a couple of subjects left. So just finished them off, and I just tried to be a normal student for a year, which in itself was a challenge because I was like, what do I do with all my time? I've got,
Yeah.
usually 5, 6 hours a day that I'd be training. I'm like, now what do I do? And so I probably tried to live it up a little bit, I guess you could say, in that year and just enjoy the experience and do what all the college people do. And but yeah, it was hard trying to come to terms with that. And then I finished my degree and graduated with a degree in sports management, which that was like a really proud moment, I think, because like I said, study and education probably was never front of mind for me. And I remember
Mm.
getting to uni and I was like, I don't know what I want to study. Like, I just want to play tennis.
Yeah.
Um, and then I guess sport management just came naturally because I was like, oh, it's sport, that'll do.
Yeah.
But I actually really enjoyed it, and that's where I'm still working at the moment, so I love it. But yeah, so then I moved home in 2013 back to Perth, and we had to go through everything again with the neurologist and go through all the testing again. And after about a year or so, he was like, "Oh, I don't know if it's multiple sclerosis. I think it might be transverse myelitis. It's not quite enough there. Still got this numb leg." And I'm like, "God, I don't know, whatever. Like, what do I do? Like, just tell me what I need to do." So that was how tennis, I guess, came to an end for me, pretty abruptly. And yeah, that was pretty hard. Like, to be honest, I hated tennis then for about 2, 3 years. I have to look at a tennis racket. I didn't want to watch tennis. I was probably pretty bitter. And especially now, like I see players playing the Australian Open that I played against as a junior, and you go, "Oh, what if?" You know. But again, out of my control, and it's just one of those things where it's like it happened, and I don't necessarily regret it or anything like that. Like, it is what it is. It's kind of made me a little bit more resilient now. And um, yeah, I still have this numbness in my leg, which I still work through, which it just kind of feels normal now. Like, I just get on with it.
Yeah.
So
So it wasn't MS in the end?
yeah, I actually, it's funny because it's still ongoing. Like, I saw the neurologist in November last year because when I did my ACL, um, I started getting really bad nerve pain in my shin.
Mm.
And we're doing all the scans in my knee, and they're like, structurally, everything's fine. But I felt like I was running with a broken leg. Like, that's how painful it was.
Right.
But then they were saying, well, no, structurally, everything's fine. So I was like, well, I guess I just keep running through it then, like, just run through the pain, which is what I did. And I guess emotionally and mentally, that took a really big toll on me because it was so painful.
Yeah.
Um, and then, yeah, November last year, I had some more scans and saw a neurologist here in Adelaide. And yeah, he told me I had spinal atrophy. And so he goes, you never should have been playing football in the first place.
Oh god, wow.
So he's like, you're lucky both your legs aren't numb.
Yeah.
So that was, yeah, only as recent as a couple of months ago, which for me was like, there was an element of relief, but also an element of just like, what the hell? So I was like, do I have MS or not have MS? Like,
Yeah.
um, it's just been really conflicting stories, and just I still have this numbness and it's just burning pain in my foot. And I just kind of have to each day just live with it and just manage it.
Wow. So there's no cure or anything, or they don't really know much more about it at the moment?
No, so I've got a follow-up appointment in May, to kind of talk through some of my latest scans and figure out if there's anything else going on. But in terms of the numbness, like nothing has helped it. Nothing is. I just can't. It's really challenging from a football and tennis perspective. Like in something that carries, like tennis is so much about like your legs and your trunk and not being able to, like, I can't feel when my foot hits the ground on my left side. So I really struggle if I go out to take a mark. I can't jump off my left leg
Mhm.
because I just can't register when my foot hits the ground to then launch. And same when I'm landing. Like I can land on it, but I generally will hit the floor. And I remember one day one of my coaches said to me, "You need to keep your feet on." And I said, "Well, yeah, that'd be great, but I hit my leg."
I can't, yeah.
Yeah. So it comes with its challenges, but I guess over time have learnt to try and manage it.
Wow.
And it's just like even with some of the rehab and trying to explain pain is really difficult because I can't feel like if I'm getting a massage through my calf, it just feels like someone's got like I can't feel the pressure. It's just like someone's just wiping my leg. Um, I can't feel heat. I can't feel ice. So often I'll get into an ice bath and put my left leg in first. I'm like, oh no, it's not too bad. And I'm like, oh, well, maybe put the right one in.
So
Um,
you've been playing your whole footy career with that.
yeah, yeah.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's, and I think it put it into perspective for me, probably November last year when he said, he's like, he goes, "How the hell have you been playing?" I was like, "I don't know,
Yeah. And
just
an
do it." Like,
All-Australian and, just captain on top
yeah,
of
I was
that,
like
like,
that's just like, I just
all in a
loved it
day's
so
work.
much, so you just find a way to do it.
Wow.
But I guess as I started learning more about it, I'm like, "Okay, well, that makes sense why I couldn't do that or why I found that challenging." And even when I was going through my rehab, 'cause the most recent ACL, they're both on the left side, and I went to do the pitch ready testing in Sydney, and it was probably the most flattening day ever for me personally because I had done so much work, but everything was single leg orientated and my proprioception outside's bad anyway. My ability to try and like push off that leg and jump, like I just felt like I just completely failed everything. Because I was like, I can't feel my legs. So it's so hard to do it.
Yeah. Yep.
So that was a really hard day, but the testing came back okay. Like I would have gone back out in the field if we weren't confident about it. And I had no hesitations whatsoever through training and through once I got back out there. It was just really just one of those things where it just happened again, but a different mechanism. So
Mm. Was there any ever talk that there was a correlation with the 2 ACLs being on that left side with the condition that you've had?
um, we've talked about it briefly just around potentially there has been like rehab wise, just not having the full extent of being able to feel everything and my landing proprioception. Like, could there be some? But all of my testing and strength testing was all, like, back to baseline, and, like, surgeon was happy with the graft, like, everything was I went through all the change direction, and I also said, I was like, "I'm not putting myself back out there unless I feel 100% confident, like, if I'm hesitating one bit, I'm not going out there." And I never even thought about it in my head, like, that it would happen again,
Yep.
and the second mechanism was different to the first, but the first mechanism was contact more so.
Yep.
And the second one was I went to pick up a ball and just planted my foot and it just buckled in. So, and I
Mm.
knew straight away, like I heard it, I felt it, like it feels like yesterday still, just the feeling and everything that went with it. But
What was the
um,
first thought that went through your head?
honestly, I just burst into tears. Like I just
Yeah.
remember laying on the ground, and it was like the last 2 minutes of training on the Thursday, and I was going to play the match sim on the Saturday to. Yeah, I just hit the ground and I think I cried for hours that night, like, because I just knew that was my career done. And I knew straight away what had happened. There was no doubt in my I said I literally said to the doctor, I said, "I will buy everyone in this club a lotto ticket tomorrow if it's not my ACL."
Mhm.
Uh, so I was just empty and pretty much like I was so hollow. And yeah, it took some time, like, trying to see out that season. Again, there's that feeling of guilt going, "God, why am I feeling guilty for feeling bad," sort of thing, for not wanting to go to a game. Like, I was finding it really hard to show up and, there's a point that in time where I said to the club, I said, "I think I just need to get out of here for a week," and I just ended up going to Bali for a week by myself and turned off all my social media. just really needed to reset mentally, and freshen up a little bit because I was hanging on by a thread, I think it's fair to say. So, I think I was like, probably one of the biggest lessons I learned through that leadership phase and through that year of 2024 was, people often say, like, you've got to put your own oxygen mask on first and, then you think about the other people. And as a leader, I think you often neglect yourself, because you're always trying to problem solve and make sure everyone else is okay. And I definitely, neglected myself there pretty badly and learnt that lesson, I think, the hard way. So, yeah, when that came around, I was like, I think I just need to take a break and just be away from the club because, you're there so much. And like I said, it's lonely, it's isolating. So that was a good decision just to get away for a week and just try and switch off and, yeah, probably just reflect. And I like to do a lot of writing and just put my thoughts onto paper. So, yeah.
Yeah, how have you sort of mentally handled a lot of this? Like, is journaling a big thing for you? Do you do meditation? Do you see a sports
Yeah.
psychologist? All those things?
Yeah, all of the above. Like, honestly, at times I haven't handled it well. And that's where I really had to learn over the last probably 24 months how to do things better. So I think I'm probably not great at, like, I've tried meditating. I'm not great at it. I find it really hard to sit there, in my own thoughts. But yeah, I find journaling really helpful for me. So I have a bit of a rule at the moment where um, my little motto is to regulate before I stimulate. And so, yeah, every morning when I get up, I'll just leave my phone away and make sure I journal for, 5, 10 minutes and just try and put my thoughts onto paper around, okay, how am I feeling? What am I feeling? Am I anxious? Am I feeling a bit flat? Or I think because then often, otherwise, the first thing you do is check your phone and check all your notifications and you're
Mm.
constantly going, right, what do I need to do today? And so for me, that's just a bit of a check in with myself, and that's something I had to learn. So I think, yeah, being completely vulnerable and raw and transparent, like in 2020, so before the 2025 season, I was in a terrible place, like with my ACL and the rehab, and that's when I sat down with a psychologist, and I wasn't using positive coping mechanisms to manage my mental health, and was speaking very openly about that. And I said, "Well, I need some help here. Like, we've got to change something because physically I can be fit, but if I'm not mentally fit, I'm not going to play this season." So I actually ended up checking myself into a mental health facility for 3 weeks, and that was probably the hardest thing I've ever done. Like, I was the most terrifying thing I've ever done. So I missed the first 2 weeks of preseason to be there, and I guess I had to admit to myself that I needed that help and I needed a bit of something to intervene. Otherwise, things probably weren't going to end very well for me. So I ended up going into state and sat down with the club. I said, I need some help here. I need to get away. And um, I think I had this perception around a mental health facility being what you see on movies, pretty scary. People in white straitjackets, strapped up, all that sort of stuff. And
Yeah.
the putting myself on a plane from Adelaide to Sydney and then having to get a train uh, to Wollongong was, I can't tell you how many times I wanted to turn around and go, I can't do this because I had no idea what I was walking into. I had no idea how long I was going to be there for. It was genuinely the scariest thing I've ever done, but probably one of the best things I've ever done as well. Um, so when I got there, it's not what it is on movies. Like, it's actually a really safe space. And for me, it was about learning how to manage and cope with my distress. And I think over time, I had all these injuries that had just built up, built up, built up, built up. And I coped with them for so long and just was like, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine, just going with it, to the point where it just wore me down and I wasn't coping.
Mm.
Um, so I got there and I remember meeting some people there, and a lot of people there were like, had come from military backgrounds or been in the army or had PTSD or, done things like that. And I'm sitting there feeling guilty going, oh my God, why am I here? I'm an athlete. I get paid to play football. I shouldn't be here. Like, I should be better than this. I haven't experienced what they've experienced. But being able to have those open conversations with people who are experiencing like very similar things, but in different context was like just so healthy for me. And it was like, it just made me feel like, okay, this is okay to be feeling like this. And the people that I met there, the skills that I learned, and like we'd sit in a classroom, we'd have to go to like class every morning, and it was honestly just learning coping mechanisms, learning how to cope with distress, and that was all about. I think that's where I found journaling, and I knew that really helped me because we'd start every session with just writing down 10 minutes of just whatever's on your mind. I got really into art, and I could honestly say I've never drawn a stick figure in my life. Like I'm shocking. But
And now
just
you're
having,
Picasso?
I wouldn't say I'm Picasso, but so one of my things I do now is I have a colouring in book and I'll just colour in. Sometimes if I'm watching TV, I'll just scribble because I find that allows me to kind of turn my mind off a little bit. So yeah, for me that was like as hard as it was and as confronting as it was probably one of the best things I've done, and I think it's important and something that's probably the first time I've shared it publicly. Like people within my four walls know, and people within the club know, and but yeah, I haven't probably made that public, but for me, it's important, I think, to try and change that perception and that stigma around mental health. And I think we can't wait until things reach crisis point to reach out. And yeah, people often look at those places and go, God, like I can't go there. That's, not right. But people would proactively go there and just say, oh, I think I just need a reset and, just learn different skills. So yeah, it was hard, but coming back then to Adelaide, and I remember sitting down and telling the team where I'd been for the last couple of weeks and why I'd missed preseason, and again, just trying to be vulnerable in the effort to then, if that helped one more person, whether
Mm.
it's now or in 10 years' time, open up and seek help, then I felt like that would help me. And that was kind of around the same time that I think we lost two people to suicide through the AFL industry. Selwood had recently just committed suicide, and yeah, I think it was really important for me to share that. I think just to try and, like I said, just if you could help one person with that message to say like it's okay to not be okay. And I had this frame of mind that because I was a footballer and athlete and got to play footy for a living, that I shouldn't be experiencing all these things. And yeah, I guess I probably learnt that success isn't really immune to depression, and it can happen to anyone and it can creep up to anyone. So that allowed me to develop skills which now I use daily to help, I guess, manage times when I feel a bit anxious or a bit, trying to now manage through the transition of retirement and this lack of structure and things like that. So it's forced me to be more open and communicate a little bit more, which I don't love. But it's just something that you kind of have to do and let your walls down. And yeah, I take my colouring in book to places and my texters and I feel like a child, but it helps me. So, and that's also how I found swimming as well. Um, is I just found it a really safe place. I really enjoyed the silence, and it was just felt really restorative in the sense that I felt at peace in the water. And so I started, yeah, swimming a couple of times a week and just felt so much better for it through that time. So I'm still learning, and I still, meet with a psychologist really, really regularly. Worked very closely with a sports psychologist because I had a pretty traumatic 2022 year when I broke my cheekbone and had 3 concussions and then broke my nose and then ankle surgery. So it took me a lot to get back to footy at that point and just have the confidence to even bend over and pick up a ball. Like took a lot of work with a sports psych.
Yeah.
So definitely very open to using all those resources because I think I've learned like I can't do this alone. And um, I I'm very lucky. I've got very, very good people in my corner, and that's something that I'm very grateful for is the people that I've got. Like I have a very small circle, and that's intentional, but they're people that I trust and they're people that I know that I can lean on when I need to, and be pretty open and honest with them. So I think without them, yeah, it probably could have been a bit of a different story as well.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I know that that's going to help so many young athletes and female and male, and especially with the almost pandemic that's happening now with mental health in sport. And, we speak a lot about how important psychological safety is in teams so that people can feel like they're safe enough to come forward with these conversations. And that's not just on the player, that's on the coaches, that's on the other players, that's on the staff. So that is incredibly important. And really, it sounds like your whole career in tennis and football, like you've battled with injury. You're so resilient, but it's almost like you felt isolated through a lot of it. You're over in the US dealing
Yeah,
with injury, you've been in rehab, like you've spent a lot of your time as an athlete isolated, even though you're in a team
yeah,
environment. And I can
yeah,
only imagine that catches up with you. So that is so
yeah.
impressive that you took the proactive step to go and get help.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think, I make a joke about it, but I was like, I think I've missed more games than I played here at Port, like through injury. So, um, and I often look at some of the girls that the same year I got drafted and they're all reaching the 50 milestones and still probably battling away on 24 or something. So, yeah, I mean, it definitely didn't end the way I wanted to. And all my friends made fun of me when I started playing AFL because they were like, you couldn't even get through tennis without getting injured. How are you going to play football? And I was like, "Yep, you know what? You're right." But I just fell in love with the game, and the team atmosphere was so different to tennis. Like, tennis is so completely isolating. But yeah, there has been the majority of my career has been in rehab, and that definitely caught up to me in the last 24 months. And there's some behaviors now I'm trying to unlearn in a way from, I think, like I said, I'm very much just, I'm either all in or I'm all out. And I really struggle to find, I don't like the word balance, but almost just a bit of harmony between the different things in my life. And yeah, I have a tendency to cook myself a little bit too much at times. So I'm trying to, I guess, remove that perfectionist mindset a little bit on everything I do, and try and just manage my energy a little bit better and know when the time is, when I need to go all in and when the time is to kind of pull back. And yeah, there's a lot of things I neglected over the years with sport, and at times I had a, probably recently there was times I felt a bit of resentment around that. We're like, should I have done that? But I also know that, yeah, like some of those skills, and it got me to where I am, and I don't think I'd be the person I am today without those experiences. And
Mm.
yeah, now it's just about thinking up like how I can help, I guess, impact the industry moving forward and influence some of the younger girls and boys coming through, no matter what sport it is or even just in life.
Yeah. And another important point that you touched on as well is the guilt that athletes feel when they're injured, or they feel like, as you said, when you're in the facility with people who are in the army. But at the end of the day, like it is perspective, and being an elite athlete, you can speak to this better than I can, but like so hard. And you have got the public eye watching you all the time. You've got social media. People just think you get to go and train and get paid well for it. Not the case. And it's no longer the game that you love. It becomes a job, and that changes things.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
your performance is constantly under scrutiny. And that becomes your identity, and you tie your self worth to your performance, which a lot of
Yep.
people don't in other industries. So I just want to make
Yeah,
that clear that like it's not all rainbows and butterflies being an elite athlete. It's
it's
extremely
really not.
hard.
It's
Yeah.
hard. And yeah, I know like a lot of people say like obviously you're so lucky and yep, paid well and do all this and do all that. But yeah, there's so much that goes on behind the scenes that people don't realize. And um yeah, especially in that female space where it's like I feel like we still have to justify why we should be in this space and why we are worth being paid. And but without realizing most of us are still managing either part-time, full-time jobs, uni,
Mhm.
financial stress, mortgages, things like that. And yeah, at most times being asked to compete at professional standards, but only really being supported in semi-professional conditions, which is tough.
Mhm.
So um yeah, it's a battle.
Mm. And there's a lot of other hidden pressures that come with being a female athlete. One being planning your family, and how does that fit in? And, having children, and can you come back, and all of that sort of stuff, which you yourself have gone down that path, and you explored, freezing your eggs and things like that. So can you share a little bit about that journey with the listeners? And I guess how well resourced is the female elite athlete industry at the moment, and how far is it not, and where does it need to go?
Oh, honestly, it's so tough. And I even I don't even think it's sport. Like, I had a conversation with someone the other day. I think it's just females in careers in general. Like, we see a lot of females delaying their career, or sorry, delaying having children or having families because they do wanna, their career is important to them and they wanna move up the ladder. And, but yeah, I guess for me, the egg freezing came about, like, I'm 35 now, I'm 36 in September. And so I froze my eggs, end of 2024. Um, and it was something that was on my mind for a couple of years, probably early 30s. Like I said, I didn't get drafted till I was 29, which all happened very quickly. And I at that point was like, oh, if I stay on a list for a year, then I'll be happy, not expecting to play 2 clubs in 7 seasons. Um, so I got to my early 30s and I guess I started thinking about it and I was like, I'd probably never paid attention to my fertility or menstrual cycle, or I guess just had no intuition around that because being an athlete, I was like, "Oh, I don't get my period, like, good, I don't care," sort of thing. Um, and was always on contraception, so, like, it didn't really matter. So it wasn't until, yeah, my early kind of 30s and I was looking into it and I was thinking about it, about what to do, but it's like I never wanted to put a time frame on my football career. I kinda always knew I'll know when enough's enough. Like, I think my body or my mind will tell me, which it very clearly did, and, um, so my plan was to do it at the end of the 2024 season, and then I ruptured my ACL. I kinda was like, "Well, this if I'm gonna do it, I may as well start the process now because there's restrictions around, how much running and contact you can do when you're doing your injections and things like that." So I, yeah, had a meeting with Recremed here in Adelaide and just started talking to them and understanding what the process was, and again, I'm sitting in this room by myself and half of this information went over and above my head because I didn't understand what she was saying, and it was just a lot to take in. Um, and I've always known, I was like, I wanna have a family, like, I'm so close to my family, it's a big value of mine, but I was like, "Oh, if I could play football for the rest of my life, honestly, I would've," 'cause I just loved it that much. So I didn't wanna get to 40 or 38 or 37 and go, "Oh, man, I wish I had have done that because now I can't, like, I'm not fertile or my eggs are not right," or something like that. So the more I started speaking to her about it, I was like, "Well, I feel like now is probably the time to do it." And, um, for me, there was, initially a financial barrier because it is not cheap to do. And I was like, "God, I don't know if I can afford that." But then I was like, "I don't think you can put a price tag on family." And I would have regretted it if I hadn't have done it. So I you have to this is probably the tricky thing with egg freezing is like the timing of everything that you have to do has to be so specific. And so at that point, I was rehabbing. I was still working, and I was working an office job, and uh, you have to you have to manage it around your menstrual cycle. So you have to get a blood test at like a very certain day, based on your period. You have to get an ultrasound based on a very certain day. So it's almost like you just get your period one day, you pick up the phone and go, God, I got to go do this right now. And so then you're going to somehow tell your boss, oh, I've just got to duck off and do something. Um, and I was pretty honest. Like was very lucky and had a female boss and was just very open and communicative with her. And the same with my coach as well, because she was a female and just kind of said, this is what I'm doing. Because I was still traveling with the team, because I was captain. So I was still going away with the girls and sitting on the bench and just trying to help out wherever. Um, yeah, it was it. So it's like, so you would have to do injections at a certain time, each, uh, then get blood tests every now and again on certain days. And I think I found the first week I was fine. I was really nervous doing the first one. Like needles don't necessarily bother me, but it was a new thing. They teach you how to do it. You're like, God, am I doing it right? I don't know. Am I hitting the right spot? I don't know. First week I was feeling fine, and then the second week, like my hormones and emotions just went through the roof. And I mean, it's funny looking back. It wasn't funny at the time, but I remember we traveled to Melbourne to play Hawthorn in the prelim. Sorry, was it the prelim or no, the semi? It must have been the one before the prelim. Um, and I was getting incredibly bloated. And at this point, none of my teammates knew I was doing it. I was incredibly bloated. I was not feeling good, and I was just my hormone was incredibly emotional, and my hormones were all over. I remember going for a walk and seeing my coach, and like, gosh, yeah, she knew, and I was just like, oh my god, this is not good. Like, this is an experience. And then that Hawthorn game, we ended up winning. by, I don't know, I think it was like a point or something. Um, and at halftime, I think we were like 30 points down. And I remember sitting on the bench and there was a part of me that went, oh my God, thank God this season's just about over. I can now just switch off. And there's that element of guilt going, I shouldn't be thinking like this. And I remember at halftime of that game, I had to go run to the toilet and inject myself because I had to do it at a certain time. So I had to take
Oh
this needle
God.
to the tub and put it in the fridge at the Oval. And so I just snuck off and got this little bag out the fridge, went to the toilet, did it, ran back and just sat back on the bench. And then so I had all this emotion going through me around the mental toll of my injury, my ACL, the team doing so well, wanting to be out there. And then I'm gone and done my fertility injection. And then I think we kicked the first 2 or 3 goals of the 3rd or 4th quarter, and I just in my head went, "Oh my God, we're gonna win this game." And then we did win it. We won it by a point, and it was, like, fantastic. It was, like, one of the best wins, like, the atmosphere of the club, like, it was phenomenal. Obviously, we were into a prelim final, and I remember getting off the bench, and I just burst into tears. Like, could not stop crying, and I'm like, I hate crying in front of people.
Yeah.
Uh, and it was just waterworks. And I remember our head of AFLW looked at me and he just went, "Are you okay?"
She's very excited.
And I was like, yeah, I was like, I don't know if these are happy tears or sad tears. I was like, I don't know. I'm just
Yeah.
really worked up.
Yeah.
And I was just so emotional just from all the hormones that were running through me that I just couldn't stop crying. Everyone was looking at me going, what the hell's wrong with you? But like, obviously no one knew. So, yeah, like I said, funny looking back, but it probably wasn't funny at the time. But I was like, oh my God, get me out of here as soon as possible.
Yeah.
So did the 2 weeks and then you go through the egg retrieval, which you get put under for. They do it. It's a day process. It's fine. Um, Pain-free, all good. And then they kind of said there can be a risk of what's called ovarian hyperstimulation. And I was like, yep, no worries. Sure enough, 1 or 2 days afterwards, I was like, I looked like I was probably about 12 weeks pregnant. Um, I actually sent a photo to my brother and I was like, "You're gonna be an uncle." And he was like, uh, and I was just pale. I had this stabbing pain in my stomach and it just did not go away. And then it turns out I had ovarian hyperstimulation. So I had to go get blood tests practically every single day. I couldn't eat and we had exit interviews at that point, and I just remember walking into my exit interview and I was just white as a ghost. And I just sat there and I was like, I'm not feeling like my coach knew, but I was just like, I'm not feeling good. And the rest were like males and they were looking at me going, what the
Yeah.
hell's wrong with this one? And then I walked into the doctor's office, my medical, and he just laughed at me because he knew what was going on. And I was
Yeah.
like, it was the most horrible experience ever. Having this, yeah, and it wasn't, so that took about a week to kind of settle. So, um, but once it's done, it's done. And so now it's like I've got the egg sitting there, and if anything, it's a security blanket for me
Yeah.
that I can hopefully use if I need to. Um, and it's just, I guess, yeah, knowing that I have that option if I need it, it's there. So it was certainly a process and a bit of an eye-opening process for me because I had to learn a fair bit about my body and be a little bit more in tune with it. But yeah, again, something like I don't regret. And like I said, I don't think you can put a price tag on family, but I guess these are the things as a female you have to think about in sport and in your career as to like, it's like there's no perfect time to do anything, whether it's through injury, pregnancy, caregiving, like, but I don't know that we have the system still to properly support that across
Yeah.
the industry. I think it's getting better, but yeah, I still don't think we're quite there yet. And yeah, people have to make decisions and go, well, do I want to pursue sport for a little bit longer, or do I want to have a family? And if I have a family now, then do I want to be, an older mother, or, how does that look? So I guess there's just things that as males, they don't really have to think about.
No.
And even in the professional world as well. Like I said, if you're one, I think we see, females having kids a little bit later these days, so then they can go through their career a little bit more and get to where they want to be. So it's a yeah, it's a challenge and something that's always, I guess, was in the back of my mind as I was getting a bit older, around what that looked like. And yeah, I guess wanted to have that option, if I
Mm.
needed it. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think better support could look like having gone through your experience?
Yeah, I think like probably it helped in the sense, like I said, I was pretty open. We had a female coach, which helped as well, and probably the fact that I was going through my rehab. But I think having an honest conversation around, like, even if I was in training, like, hey, I need to be off legs for 2 weeks, or so it's probably just having those open conversations, knowing that, well, this is still a priority, but like football is also a priority. So yeah, I guess how are we setting up those, whether it's our pregnancy policies or maternity or whatever it may be, across those sports, like what do they look like? And I mean, I don't know how many sports have pregnancy policies now. I know there's a few more coming on board, but um, it's yeah, it's tough. It's even like once you've had the baby, then what does support look like moving forward at the club, and
Yeah.
that's something that I think has been on the radar a little bit as of recent times. But also, like, I know, yeah, like there's a few, Fremantle, I think, do it very well. Like they've got a couple of girls there with children, and just having the support around whether they have a creche on a Saturday, which
Mm.
just helps, to come to training and know that your kids are going to be able to be looked after rather than having to rely on, someone else to look after the kids just so you can go to training. So, yeah, I think it's just building those environments, that are holistic and broadly support everyone and are inclusive to everyone within that environment, regardless of sport or whatever that might look like. And I think we learnt, obviously, through COVID, like the flexibility that some employers now have with working from home and things like that. Like we learnt a lot through that period. So, I guess it's how can we make a few changes that we can help better support females in that space, in the industry?
Yeah. And I think exposure is so true what you're saying. Like when you actually see players bring in their kids, it's good for showing the whole team that this is their life, this is the family.
Yeah,
And it's really good for the teammates to also see and understand and be like, right,
yeah,
they might have had no sleep all night. And let's be a little bit
correct,
more
yeah,
respectful. It's so much easier, when it's behind closed doors and you don't see it firsthand. But when you've got the kids coming in and running in, it's great. They bring great energy as well, and it's just a
yeah.
really nice environment to be a part of. So the more that we
I
can bring
100%,
kids
yeah,
in, the
I
better.
agree. Like, I think it just adds, I don't yeah, I remember seeing a photo of, it was Kiara Barrows on Instagram. I think Fremantle posted it, and she was like, so she carried her second baby, and she was literally breastfeeding after a game in the change rooms.
Incredible.
And I was like, man, that's just incredible. Like, to understand what your body is doing to then go play the sport and play the game and then come straight in the change rooms and do that. Like, yeah, it's just it is incredible what the human body can do, and I guess how you adjust. But I think we went into a COVID hub, in 2022 when I was with Rio, and we had a couple of kids on the road with us. So, yeah, Lisa Webb had two little boys, and Kiara Bowers had a little boy, and they all came on a trip with us, and it honestly just made the environment so fun,
Mm,
uh, and just allowed like players to switch off at times,
yeah,
and it was really nice, because it just adds a bit of laughter, and like we take ourselves so seriously at the best of times, and yeah, I think just adding that different dynamic in really just lightens the mood, and it just reminds you that there's so much more to sport. Yeah, life is there's a lot out there. So,
absolutely. Well, Janelle, we finish every episode asking you, what would you go back and tell your 16-year-old self, knowing what you know now?
oh, a few things I think. Probably, I don't know, I think as athletes we get so tied into the outcomes, that we're producing, and we often think that's our identity, and it's like if we're not achieving XYZ, or if got this gold medal, then you're not good enough. But for me, it's about who you become through that journey. And I think I read a quote from Cool Runnings the other day. It was like, if you can't be happy without a gold medal, you're not going to be happy with one. And I think, with the Olympics just on previously, I think that's so true. Like, it's very rare that sport ends on your terms. It's incredibly rare, actually. So I think that would be one thing. I think the other thing, just, being strong is one thing, but like, you don't have to be silent and stay silent through it. It's about always seeking help and having good people around you. You don't have to push through everything by yourself. People at the end of the day, they want to see you succeed, and they will help and they want to help you. And so don't be scared to lean on those people. That was probably something I had to learn. And yeah, again, just that identity piece, like sport is a part of you, but it's not all of you. And I think I thought I had it figured out at 34, like knowing that I had a job and a career behind me. But yeah, like when I did my ACL, I was like, nah, this is me, this is my identity, and now I don't know who I am, and I need to refine that. So
Mm.
uh, it definitely consumed me there. And but yeah, I think probably the biggest one I think for me is just that vulnerability piece. Like honestly, I've learnt so much more from being in the trenches than all Australian or captain. Like um, my biggest lessons have come from that place of rock bottom. And I'm not saying I want everyone to reach rock bottom, but it's finding that optimism and trying to reframe things in a way as like I always would kind of think, well, what can I do? And that was
Mm.
probably a big motivator for me early days in my injuries with tennis. Like, I remember having a lot of stress fractures in my feet, and um, I'm like, okay, so like I can't run, I can't be on the court, but I would just get a mat and I would kneel and just serve from my knees. Um, and then when my serve became one of my biggest weapons. So I'd always just try and reframe it, and at times it's probably more in recent times it's been harder for me to try and find those lessons because started going, I've had enough now and I don't want any more lessons. Uh,
Mm.
that yeah, it's just trying to reframe it and just trying to sit with it and understand like what can I learn from this. Like I do still genuinely believe everything happens for a reason, and I think I'm still trying to find the lessons right now from the last 24 months, but I think in 5 time, the penny will drop and go, "That's why that happened."
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, we'll see what that lesson is, but yeah, it's just that reframing. So, the hard days don't last, so things get better.
Mm. Yeah, no, I totally agree. I'm a big believer too that everything happens for a reason, and it's just a matter of being open-minded enough to find opportunity in loss. It's very easy to be resentful and feel like the victim at the time, but there's always, when one door closes, always other doors open. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think really, I think it's really important. We often get really siloed into, like I said, whether it's sport or whatever it is, and just think that's our life. But yeah, it's just, I guess, stepping back and having that perspective, just going, well, what else can I be doing in this time to make myself a better person, or just helping my something outside of footy or finding a new hobby. There's always something to be learnt, and yeah, another door that can be opened, and whether it opens now or in 10 years' time. Um, yeah, it's just I'm trying to find that. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, I think you are absolutely incredible. And as I said, even before knowing all of this, you inspired me through sharing your vulnerabilities on Instagram. But you are such a successful athlete, but also a successful person. And this is what we always say about sport, it's not always defined by how many medals you win, but the setbacks that you've overcome and the person that you've become in the process of all the injuries that you've had and setbacks. Like, you know, you can't you can't script half of those things that happen. So the fact that you came back from one, let alone God, 7 or 8 long term, like it's incredible. So you should be so incredibly proud of yourself and
thank
for
you.
paving the way for a lot of young athletes with freezing your eggs and things like that that aren't really mainstream yet, but having
Yeah,
people like you showcase that. I hope it becomes more mainstream and we
yeah,
get better policies and resources around it.
yeah. I hope so. Thank you. No, I appreciate that. I think, yeah, I think as athletes, we're obviously our biggest and harshest critics. Like I said, I had a lot of guilt and kind of like, why am I here and how can I be in this space? But yeah, I guess when I had to do a bit of introspection and reflection, and I wrote kind of down everything that had happened in an amount of time, and um, that I guess yeah put things into perspective for me. So yeah, the fact that I'm still here and still working through it, and just showing up each day, just trying to put one foot in front of the other, and yeah, just keep learning from it, and just trying to be a better person at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Thank you so much for coming on and for being so
Thanks for
vulnerable.
having me.
And for all the listeners out there, please share this with someone who needs it. I'm sure everyone needs to hear this conversation. I know I'll be sharing it with a few people, and be sure to like and subscribe and follow Janelle on her next journey on socials. What's your best place? Is it Instagram? Is that your best handle?
Yeah, probably Instagram. I'm not
Yeah,
very
not a
TikTok.
TikToker?
I've used
Me either.
it, but I'm not very. I don't love the camera, so But no, yeah, probably Instagram, I'd say.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much again, and I'm
Gotcha.
very much looking forward to the next chapter.
Same, me too. No, thanks for having me. Really appreciate it, Kylie.
You've been listening to 4TG, where the future of women's sport is being shaped, one story at a time. If today's episode hit home, subscribe, rate 5 stars, and send it to someone who needs that push. Stay in the loop at 4TG_podcast or on 4TG.com. We'll see you next time. Same mission, same movement. This one was for the girls.